These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Thom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Health. More info at teethhealth.com, code Thom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Thom. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code Thom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Thom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Thom.
We say fight back!
First day of the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. The, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the Spring Has Sprung Fund Drive. Membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, you know, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, you know, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, you know, like when I finally get irritated enough at the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? You know, this show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So there are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift, your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the two books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these two books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, you know, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, you know, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the two books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or you know, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off the record conversations that you know, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded, and you know, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You get a Zoom link, and you know, you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, you know, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances, and, you know, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed, and the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch, and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour. And, you know, that's what we'll be doing. Assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know, we'll figure this out, exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call me.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. It's a beautiful Thursday out here. A lot going on in the world we will be getting to as we go through the program today. I want to start off talking about the billionaires' big con and where the GOP is at in America right now, and how it got there, and, you know, what this means for the future of this country. In our second hour, Professor Richard Wolff is going to drop by. I want to ask him, you know, the 30-year Treasury bonds are now above 2%. What does that mean? I mean, what is the bond market? Why should we care? How does that affect our lives? And for people who want to invest, what does that mean? And in our third hour, we're going to do a conversations with great topics. Dr. Keisha Blain, a great mind, is the editor of an extraordinary book, 400 Souls, A Community History of African America. That is a collection of essays by other people, in addition to one that Dr. Blain wrote, about starting in the 1600s right up to today about Black American. It's fascinating. We're going to do a deep dive in the entire third hour with that, and you're going to learn a lot that you didn't know, and regardless of what you know or think you know. And I'm very much looking forward to that. But I wanted to start with, you know, kind of the billionaires' big con, and this whole question of the Republican Party. You know, there's in fact an op-ed in today's Financial Times by Simon Cooper, and it's titled, "Do Republicans Even Want Government to Exist?" I mean, just let that question sink in for a moment. Do Republicans even want government to exist? He talks about how, you know, the big news story right now is how you've got the Trump Republicans versus the establishment conservative Republicans. You've got the Jim Jordans versus the Liz Cheneys. And as if that's a difference. But in fact, he says, you know, basically the Republicans have taken Ronald Reagan's small government ideology and turned it into an anti-government position, period. They're arguing against, on a constant basis, on a continual basis, against the American form of government that was created by our founders. The idea of democracy in a republic, a republican form of government, a system of laws, a republic, which is run of, by, and for the will of the people, we the people, through a democratic process of elections where the majority rules. And, you know, like I've said before, you know, before the Reagan Revolution, we actually saw this work. It's how in the 60s and 70s, well, from the 30s to the 70s, we got everything from Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and unemployment insurance and workplace protections and the Environmental Protection Agency cleaning up our air and our water and, you know, food safety and drug safety and efficacy and all these things. These were all the consequences of efforts put forward by liberal Democrats, every single one of them. And every single one of them was opposed by Republicans, without exception. And they continue to. But the Republicans didn't have this, I mean, you know, they up until the 1980s, it was more like, well, let's just go slow. Dwight Eisenhower, Republican president from 1952 until 1961, or 53 to 60, you know, January of 53 to January of 61, bragged about, campaigned for re-election in 1956 on the platform of, I expanded Social Security, I expanded union membership. Now, Republicans, you know, they were still generally opposed to Social Security and union membership, but they were not talking about destroying them. They were just saying, you know, let's not let this get out of control. Well, now they're talking about destroying it. And so, you know, we had Trump, you know, who was savaging, as this op-ed in the Financial Times says, was savaging our intelligence agencies, war veterans, and NATO, right? And the Republicans were just fine with this. They never even put together an infrastructure bill under Trump. So the piece that I wrote for Medium.com today, and Luis, I put a lot of work into these every morning, and I really hope that you have an opportunity to check these out it's at thomhartmann.medium.com. And because every day we put a new one up, and they have to do with our daily take, although we also do them on Saturdays and Sundays. But back during the Eisenhower administration, you know, in the 50s and in the 60s, I mean, these numbers held right up through the mid-70s when we got hit with an inflation shock as a result of the oil price increases from the Six-Day War and things like that. The Arab oil embargo. But up until then, 75%, this was from a Pew study poll. The Pew has looked at these numbers over a 50, 60, 70-year period. And what they found was 75% of Americans, quote, trust the federal government to do what is right. Throughout the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, or at least the early 70s. But in 2019, the last time Pew, now maybe they did it last year and they haven't published the numbers yet, but the last time that they published numbers was 2019. And they asked, do you trust the federal government to do what is right? And only 17% of Americans said yes. Only 17%. Now, why would that be? I think this is the direct result of a 40-year campaign kicked off by Ronald Reagan on January 20th, 1981, when he said in his inaugural address, government is not the solution to your problems, our problem. Government is the problem. And I mean, you know, consider if you're a billionaire who inherited a multi-billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar fossil fuel empire from daddy, which is kind of like the situation in Atlas Shrugged, you know, Ayn Rand's novel, where this brother and sister, who are the heroes of the book, inherit this railroad from their daddy. If you don't have to pay to dispose of cancer-causing byproducts from your refineries, but can just vent them in the air, you make more money. If you can cut wages and threaten your employees because they don't have a union, you make more money. If you can run a pipeline across Native American land atop major national aquifers with minimal safety oversight, you make more money. If you can hide your money from the IRS because they've had their budget slashed, you get to keep more money. If you can get the government to cut social programs and public education and lower your taxes, you get to keep more money. So this is what's happened. I mean, we've had this 40-year war on American government. And it has caused the American people to say, you know, I don't trust government anymore because of what Republicans have done to it. Senator John Thune, the Republican from, I believe it's North Dakota, when in this hearing, I believe it was this morning, it might have been yesterday afternoon, they had the Costco chief too. Lindsey Graham was sparring with the guy who was the head of Costco, who's saying, yeah, we should have a $15 minimum wage. And John Thune says, I started working by bussing tables at the Star Family Restaurant for $1 an hour and slowly moved up to cook. The big leagues for a kid like me to earn $6 an hour. Now, that was in the 70s. $6 an hour in the 70s is $24 an hour right now. And John Thune is saying, why should we raise it to $15 an hour? Really? And in Kansas, I mean, this is a great piece over at by Christopher Reeves over at Daily Kos. Kansas Republican Sam Brownback cut long-term unemployment in Kansas dramatically. He cut it from 26 weeks to 16 weeks. In most blue states, it's a year. It was a half a year in Kansas. He cut it down to 16 weeks. And now you got COVID, and people in Kansas are screwed. And the Republicans are running around bumping into each other and banging into walls trying to figure out what to do about it and trying to blame Democrats for this. Well, you know, those unemployment programs, those were the Democrats' thing. Right. We need a $15 minimum wage. We need some good progressive legislation to offer American workers a chance to get ahead. We need to stimulate the economy. There is just so much we need to be doing. And the Republicans have just been saying, no. We're happy being rich men in a poor country, say the Republicans. I'm not. How about you?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I also have an amazing geeky science. I'll share that with you in the second block of our second hour. We'll get to that. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Jeff in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I want to talk about the attack on democracy in Iowa here. We had the thing at Washington on January 6th. We're having Iowa's on February 25th today. Our legislators, Republican in the Senate, are pushing through voter suppression laws. One of them is
surprise.
Yeah, one of them is that if you miss voting in a general election, you will be kicked off the voting rolls. They're going to shorten the hours that we vote on Election Day till 9 o'clock at night down to 8, and they're shortening up the days that we can vote ahead of time. About 3 years ago, it was 40. Now it's going to be 20. They're going after the Postal Service that if you have a mail-in ballot and it's not received on Election Day, it will not be counted. So they're doing an all-out attack on the voters, and it's not like we have a large African-American population here or anything. So I think a lot of this will hit seniors in the state of Iowa, which is, I'm sure, our biggest voting bloc, severely. And I would think it might even hurt their own voters.
Republicans in Georgia, back 15 years ago, Republicans in Georgia passed the you can do absentee voting with no excuses. The Republicans pushed that through in Georgia because they wanted their elderly voters who were, largely white and largely, or at least the voting bloc is, largely white Republican voting bloc. They wanted them to be able to vote. Now they're doing the same thing that you're talking about. And I think they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot, Jeff.
I would think so too, Tom. And they're also going after Twitter and Facebook and stuff. Some years ago, they built some data centers here in Iowa, and of course, they stopped Donald Trump's off Twitter and took him off his Twitter feed and stuff. And they're saying now that they're going to cut any tax breaks or subsidies that were given to Facebook and Twitter unless they open it back up for what they call their conservative speech. They feel it's being blocked. If I was those guys, I
Plus
would
they put
just
Trump
pack
back
up
on
those buildings and say, see you later, and take the jobs with it.
Yeah, and that may well be what happens. I mean, that may well be what happens. Which would be fascinating.
Well, one thing about it, Tom, we're not hearing a thing about this on our nationwide, our main channels, ABC, NBC,
well, this is happening
CBS.
all across the country. There are now over 500. Just a week ago, it was 235. Now there's over 500 pieces of voter suppression legislation that have been introduced into state legislatures in 31 states. Well, actually, they've been in more than 31 states, but in 31 states, they actually have a chance of passage. Jeff, do you think that, real quickly, do you have a sense that these Republican voter suppression bills will actually pass in Iowa, or is this just a show effort?
It's going to her desk, Governor Kim Reynolds, today.
Oh, really? So it's passed?
Passed both House and Senate. They're both Republican run.
Holy cow. Fascinating. Jeff, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the call. We'll be right back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. You can find an absolutely fascinating library of my writings, including my daily rants, over at thomhartmann.medium.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just a heads up, the House is revisiting the, we had the Senate hearings, Monday this week? Earlier this week, anyway. In fact, we carried much of it live on this program where the senators were asking the head of the Capitol Police and the former head of the Capitol Police and all that kind of stuff, what was going on. That's going on in the House right now. The networks were carrying it for a while, a few hours ago, but it kind of devolved into minutia. But if anything pops up out of that or anything fascinating happens, I'll be sure to let you know. We are monitoring that. The conference call, the big focal point, which they're not so much talking about because it's already out there and they really need to be talking to the people at the Pentagon about this. And those are the hearings that are scheduled for next week. And there will be, if this thing plays out the way I think it's going to play out, some real fireworks. But at 2:28 p.m., there was this conference call between the Capitol Police. It turns out, what's the old saying? Figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Or statistics, damn statistics, and whatever. It turns out that what happened was more than 80% of the roughly 10 million jobs that were lost last year as a result of the Trump Great Depression, because of Trump's disastrous response to the COVID epidemic. Keep in mind, we, on January 20th of 2020, had our first case of COVID in the United States. South Korea, on January 20th, had their first case in South Korea. Between then and now, South Korea got it under control. They've had a total of a few hundred deaths. Now, it's a smaller country. It's about 10% the size of the United States, but they have had not even, 1%, far fewer than 1% of the deaths that we have here in the United States. And we have 500,000 people dead because, Trump and the Republicans figured, hey, the job of government? No, there is no job for government. Government shouldn't do anything. Biden inherited nothing with regard to a vaccine distribution plan when he came into office. And we were all wondering, why is it that the Pentagon is blocking Biden from knowing what's going on? Well, I think they were covering up their role their complicity in January 6th. We were wondering, why is it that the CDC and all these other agencies are not cooperating with the Biden transition team? Well, now we know why. They had nothing going on. So anyhow, here's what happened. Here's why wages grew 6.9% last year. Because the 80% of the jobs that were lost were low-wage jobs. These were people who were, in some cases, literally making $2 and $3 an hour because they were tipped workers. And most states don't have their minimum wage for tipped workers at $7.25 an hour. There's a loophole in federal law that was put there back in the day specifically to hit black and brown people who were overwhelmingly, in that category. And so what happened was we lost a lot of $7.25 an hour jobs, and we lost a lot of $2 and $3 an hour jobs. And so the median shifted. The median went up 6.9%. The average wage in the United States went up 6.9%, simply because we lost a lot of those terrible jobs, which means if we can pass a $15 minimum wage, and yeah, I know it takes 5 years to phase in, but still, if we can pass a $15 minimum wage, over the next 5 years, you're going to see that increase in median wages actually hold and actually grow. So while it sounds like good news, oh, it's a great thing, we have an increase in the median wage, it's actually kind of bad news because it means that 8 million out of the 10 million people who lost their jobs, roughly, 8 million of them were low-wage workers who, when they lose their jobs, they really get wiped out. These are not people who have large savings accounts. These are the people who are, at risk of being evicted and all this kind of stuff. But if we can lift 27 million people out of poverty wages over a 5-year period, that just seems to me like a really good thing. Final note, and then I'll pick up your phone calls on the other side of this break. CPAC is starting today, I believe. If not today, tomorrow. As I mentioned before, I used to go there every year. I'm not this year, not even bothering. And Judd Legum, with his Popular Information blog today, or newsletter, is calling it a festival of lies. They are just tripling down at CPAC on Donald Trump's lies. His big stabbed in the back, big lie that Joe Biden didn't win the election, when we all know Biden won the election by 7 million votes and won the Electoral College by the same margin that Trump beat Hillary Clinton by, 306 votes. But they're doubling down on a whole series of lies. This is all the Republican Party has anymore. If you don't believe in government and you don't support doing anything to help the people, you really find yourself in a position where you have to lie to people. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Speaking the truth, the multinational corporations would really rather you didn't know all about. Thom Hartmann with you. Pick up your calls after this. Hey, it's the first day of the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. The, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the Spring Has Sprung Fund Drive. Membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, when I finally get irritated enough at the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? This show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So There are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift, your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the 2 books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these 2 books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the 2 books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off-the-record conversations that, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded. And, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You'll get a Zoom link and you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances, and, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed, and the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch, and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour, and that's what we'll be doing. Assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know. We'll figure this out exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call now. Thank you. On the Science Revolution this week, Dr. Michael Mann drops by about our fossil fuel addiction and how it's leading to bombs, cyclones, and famines. If the recent wild weather is any forecast of what's to come, we need to get our carbon emissions under control quickly. As the jet stream to our north and the Gulf Stream to our east continue to wobble and weaken, weather patterns that enable human species. The crisis is now. Tune into The Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I mentioned the Judd Legum's piece on CPAC, and I'll pick up your calls in just a second, but this is just incredible. CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, is organized by a lobbyist. His name is Matt Schlapp. And on November 8th on Fox News, Schlapp said, "There are literally 9,000 people who voted in this election who don't live in Nevada." He said Nevada is a cesspool of fake votes. It turns out, and then the Trump campaign created a list of 3,062 individuals that they claimed voted in Nevada after moving out of state. Sounds pretty bad, right? 3,000 people? Oh my God. Well, it turns out that those were almost all people who had been in the military, who were in the military, who had been stationed in Nevada, who were then redeployed overseas. So they were still voting in Nevada, but they were now living in Germany or in Iraq or in Afghanistan. Amy Rose, an Air Force major who uncovered some of this because she was on the list, she said it's shocking that the Trump campaign would call these military members criminals for exercising their right to vote. And that's just, one of the many lies. But I mean, this is, and they're still, I mean, that lie, oh, there's 7,000 people who don't live in Nevada who voted in the election. That lie is still floating around on the right wingosphere and will probably be, repeated again at CPAC this year. This is, here's Kevin McCarthy. November 5th, 2002, on Fox News. President Trump won this election, so everyone who's listening, do not be quiet. This is the day, this is a month, 2 months before January 6th. Do not be quiet. We cannot allow this to happen before our very eyes. Join together and let's stop this. That's Kevin McCarthy on Fox News after Trump lost the election. Senator Rick Scott talking about these. I mean, it just goes on. Josh Hawley, obviously we know the long list, right? And I've washed my hands of those folks. I've given up. I mean, for years I thought, well, maybe we can have conversations, and I'm still going to continue to have conservatives on the program whenever they are willing to come to talk about specific issues, but featuring CPAC on this show, attending? No, I just don't think so. Anyway, John in Minneapolis. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Yeah, as far as protecting the vote, I think we need to get past, H.R. 1 and then H.R. 4. And, of course, we have to get rid of the filibuster. And that's all.
What is H.R. 4?
H.R. 4 has to do with the Voting Rights Act, and it'll put teeth back into the Voting Rights Act that was taken out by the Supreme Court.
That undoes the 2013 Shelby County decision by the Supreme Court. And H.R. 1, of course, is an expansion of voting rights across the country and essentially a standardization. Not a rigid one. It's really rather weak, but it's a really good step. Am I characterizing those, in your opinion, John, fairly?
Yes, and H.R. 1, I mean, very, very important, because this is, it's expected. This is who we're playing with. They have no respect for the rule of law, Constitution, and, they're a party. If they are a party in shambles, we need to take advantage of that shambles and, move forward on things that people want, which is, the minimum wage. I would say also Medicare for all or some bill like that, et cetera, et cetera. The things that
free college education and a Green New Deal.
And a Green New Deal.
I think, Democrats just need to boil this down to just a couple things. John, you always say it so well. Thank you very much for the call. Brad in Carpentersville, Illinois. Hey, Brad, thanks for listening to SiriusXM. What's on your mind today?
So I wanted to say I'm someone who believes in $15 an hour. But I also was wondering, if that would affect and how that would affect people on retirement, like my aunts and uncle, who they survive on a fixed income of Social Security and 401k. Because obviously some companies, just to be instead of anything else, are going to raise their prices.
Is it going to raise prices? And Brad, by the way, if we're going to continue to talk, you need to get your mouth closer to the microphone. The argument that conservatives always make about raising the minimum wage is that if you raise the minimum wage, you're going to raise the purchasing power of low-income Americans. They're going to buy more stuff, and by buying more stuff, they're going to stimulate the economy, and that's going to produce inflation because there's more demand for goods, so the price of goods will go up. And it sounds logical. And if we were talking about raising the wages of people making between $50,000 and $150,000 a year, it's actually an argument that is defensible because then you're increasing discretionary spending. But for people who are making $7.25 an hour, or people who are making anything under $15 an hour, you're not increasing discretionary spending. They're not going to suddenly go out and buy 6 new pairs of jeans just for the hell of it because they really like the new style. They're going to be buying survival stuff, and increasing purchasing on survival stuff has a small stimulative effect on the economy. It will help the economy, but it does not produce inflation. And in fact, here's the proof of it, Brad. The minimum wage was put into place in the 1930s. As I recall, it was 35. It might have been 1936 by Franklin Roosevelt as part of the New Deal. At the time, Republicans were yelling and squealing about it, saying, oh my God, this is going to cause inflation. This has always been their argument. Right. The minimum wage has been raised 38 times since then. It's been 10 years now since it's been raised, but it's been raised 38 times since 1930, 36, or 35 when it was put into place. If there was even one, and 2 of those minimum wage increases were over 30%. If any of those times, if any one of those 38 years when the minimum wage was raised, there was a measurable increase in inflation, that year would be the only thing you would hear out of the mouth of any Republican right now. They'd be going, oh, you don't want to see what happened in 1957. You know, back in 1957, they raised the minimum wage by 37%, whatever it was, and inflation went up, to 0.7%. It was a disaster. If it had literally ever happened in the history of America, that would be the year, or those would be the years the Republicans would be pointing to. But instead, they're just yelling into the darkness, into the emptiness, because they don't have an example, because there isn't one. Like I said, if you were seeing the wages of people making $100,000 a year go up, yeah, you'd start to see inflation, even $50,000 a year or more. But for people who are making $25,000, $30,000 a year, or $15,000 a year, which is what $7 an hour is, for them to see an increase in their wages, that is not inflationary at all. So, Brad, no worries. Don't worry about your aunt and uncle who are retired. Although we should index Social Security to an actual measure of seniors' inflation, because drug prices have been going up faster than the regular inflation index, and seniors use that. So we need to fix Social Security, but that's a whole other thing.
That was actually my other portion of what I was going to ask is, so while sometimes they get their cost of living increases like $10 or $30 a month, then the cost of their Medicare copay, cost of medication, supplemental, all that goes up, almost turning that increase, if you would, into a loss, really.
Yeah,
so
and it shouldn't be a loss, and that's the thing. Bernie has been talking about this
also.
Yeah, Bernie's been talking about this for 20 years. There's 6 different measures of inflation, and that measure different things. And the major one that is used is this basket of stuff that includes things like electronics and gym memberships. I mean, all kinds of stuff that seniors just generally are not buying in large quantities. They're not buying new Game Boys every year or whatever they may be. And Bernie has been arguing, and the Progressive Caucus has been arguing, that there should be a specific measure of inflation that is specific to people over 60. And that is what should be applied to Social Security. So, when the copay for your Medicare goes up, when the cost of pharmaceuticals goes up, when the cost of nursing home care or elder care goes up, then Social Security should go up. Because it used to be, when I was a kid, back back in the days, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, literally, I knew people and friends of my parents who were retired on Social Security and literally could live on Social Security. You could do that back then. You pretty much can't do that anymore. Social Security does not provide people with enough income that it's a reasonable retirement. You have to have a supplement. You either have to have savings, or you have to have a pension, or you have to have something. Because people just trying to live on Social Security alone, particularly, when you chop Medicare, Medicare pulls a couple $100 every month out of your Social Security. And if you're only making, $800, $900 a month on Social Security, that's tough stuff. That's tough stuff. Brad, thank you. Thanks for the call. Great one. I appreciate those kinds of questions. We will be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's 45 minutes past the hour. Richard Wolff will be with us in our second hour. In our third hour, we're going to do a deep dive on 400 years of African-American history. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the home of the political revolution. Back with your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Let's see here. Joanne in Van Nuys, California. Hey, Joanne, thanks for listening to us on KPFK. What's on your mind today?
Well, I think that we ought to reduce these salaries of the Republicans to $10 an hour, including their staff, and tell them they have to pay for the paper and print and all their expenses coming into Washington and flying and all the rest, and see what it's like, and tie their salary and bonus increases to the inflation index. And when the index goes up, they get the same amount as everybody else. And I know it's ridiculous even proposing this, but I think I just want to get it out there. I just want it, just the comment made, because these arrogant people who, they don't come. Who do they think they are? They're supposed to represent people. And so why shouldn't they share the misery?
I agree. And Congressman Mark Pocan, back three years ago or thereabouts, around the time that he started doing Middays with Mark on our program, there was a debate about food stamps at that point in time, and the Democrats are trying to raise the food stamp allowance, and the Republicans are trying to cut it. And so he, as I recall, I'm pretty sure it was Mark Pocan, he lived on the food stamp allowance, which I think is like $3.12 a day or something like that. It's very, very low. And so for a month, or a few weeks anyway, he lived on the food stamp allowance, and it was tough going. I would take your proposal, Joanne, a step farther. I would say that what we should do is tie the salaries of members of Congress. They give themselves raises periodically. And in fact, if they don't vote against it, it automatically happens. Now, I would tie those to the minimum wage, not to inflation. And that way, I think that they would start making sure that the minimum wage goes up with inflation.
Exactly. Thank you. Good start.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for the call. It's great to hear from you. John in Los Angeles. Hey, John, thanks for listening to KPFK. What's up?
Hey, the good angels over there. I want to make a quick quote, and then I'll get to my point. Machiavelli said in the 14th century that if only the body had acted, we would still have liberty. And Florence went to the autocrats. But anyway, my thing I want to talk about, Lindsey Graham. Let's start with Mitch McConnell real quickly. Mitch McConnell, when he first became senator, Roger Ailes ran his campaign, okay? And the only Democratic incumbent that year lost his seat to McConnell by frivolous lies. The lies were so outrageous. The guy he beat, I think it was Cooper, but I'm not 100%. But anyway, he was a tank gunner in World War II, a real World War II hero, okay? So moving on to Lindsey Graham, with the lies that he perpetuates with, saying, Donald Trump's a traitor, he can't go along with any more of this, blah, blah, blah. We heard it on his coming out of his mouth. Then he's down in Miami kissing the ring. And the other person I wanted to bring up, I'm a little flustered right now, but McConnell, Lindsey Graham, yeah. And who? Oh, yeah. The reason I bring up Lindsey Graham is in his book, he wrote, when they gave him a Bronze Star,
right,
which he didn't deserve, but who went to bat for him? General Petraeus, who gave out information that got some of our secret people killed.
Oh yeah, that's right. His affair. I completely forgot about that. John, I'm sorry, we're hitting the break. I gotta run here, but thank you for the call, and and for calling out Mitch McConnell. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Gretchen Reynolds over at the New York Times has been compiling for the last year or so, maybe a little longer, but I've been noticing it for the last year, some just remarkable statistics and information coming out of peer-reviewed scientific journals about the benefits of very, very small, short amounts of exercise on the quality of life and the lifespan, the ability to survive disease of all of us. Frankly, some of the studies were on younger people. A lot of the studies were on people over 50. And I'm talking very small amounts of exercise, like literally 4 minutes of bicycling, or 4 seconds, of bicycling really hard on a stationary bicycle, followed by 56 seconds of just relaxing, and doing that 15 times, over a 15-minute period, a couple of times a week. 4 seconds of exercise produce measurable results. It's all over at thomhartmann.com. We got a new video up for the people who are supporters of our program. You can check it out. Oh, welcome back. Nathan in West Los Angeles. Hey, Nathan, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Good to talk to you again. To your point about minimum wage, I just wanted to put in my anecdote, which is that I own a company here in Southern California, and I pay no one less than $30. That's even the lowest guys just pushing road cases in and out of a truck make $30 an hour, and I manage to still do fine. I own 2 homes in Southern California. It doesn't hurt me. If I can do it, I don't know why Walmart can't.
Yeah, and and the Costco guy was saying something similar to that. They've been paying way above minimum wage for a long time, plus everybody has benefits and everybody has health insurance and all these other things that really significantly add to the wages. And I mean, you could screw your employees and make more money or not. I mean, that is kind of the bottom line, and the screw the employees crowd is officially the Republican Party. Nathan, point made. Thank you very much. Whoop, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a quarter-second delay here, I heard him after I'd already pushed the button to drop him. I'm sorry. Tyrone in Harlem. Hey, Tyrone, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? Tom, why do we continue to deal with some of these Republicans like they're honest brokers? And we understand that there's a certain segment of them that make sure that the rich stay rich and make sure that the poor stay poor. And we have to understand that if someone considers themselves the Grim Reaper, we've got to know that we got to deal with them accordingly. And us trying to make, turning ourselves into pretzels to try to accommodate what they want, it's not going to be, it's not going to work out well for us. So due to the fact that we have the Senate, the House, the White House, and we're still trying to massage them into going our way, and like you said, the unemployment or the amount that the minimum wage go up, they'd fight about that when it was $7.25. They didn't want it to go up to that much. So they're going to fight about that anyway. We have to learn to accept the fact that these people are going to be against anything we want to do and just deal with them accordingly. That's the way I see it. I don't see us, working with them, and we need to vote, get the Senate and the House. We need to put more, they straight up cheat to win, and we got to know that. We have to understand that this is what we're up against.
I completely agree, Tyrone. Number one, for people who don't know your reference to the Grim Reaper, that's what Mitch McConnell called himself.
Absolutely.
Number two, this morning on CNN, Poppy Harlow, who's good. I mean, you want people to ask the hard questions. She asked a Democratic member of Congress, well, the cost of living here in New York is much higher than it is in, some rural parts of America. Shouldn't the minimum wage be, lower in those rural parts of America than $15 an hour? And he gave this kind of long, mumbly answer about, she said, are you comfortable with this? And the CBO and all this kind of stuff. And what he should have said was what Bernie and I were talking about yesterday on this program, which is that the minimum wage is not an average wage. It's the floor that you don't fall through. And whether you live in rural South Dakota or whether you live in New York City, that's just a floor that you don't fall through. That's not what the prevailing wage in New York City is going to be much higher than it is in Minot, South Dakota, or North Dakota, or wherever it is. But that doesn't mean that you have to stagger the minimum wage regionally. There's because $15 an hour is still less than the minimum wage was in 1968. Inflation adjusted, the 1968 minimum wage in America was doing just fine, thank you very much, in 1968. The minimum wage then was between $18 and $20 an hour in today's money. And we just acknowledge that. Thank you very much for the call, Tyrone. Tammy in Spirit Lake, Iowa. Hey, Tammy, what's up? We have about a minute left.
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to piggyback on the caller from Fort Dodge about some of the other bad bills Iowa's got going on. My particular legislator is pushing for the slaughterhouses to inspect themselves. We've also got a tax on our school system to the fact that our tax dollars will be even covering homeschooling and private schools. We had our voter suppression bill. Also, another one that is particularly bad is, the school choice. I've forgotten it already. Anyway,
that's okay. Sounds like you've got quite a collection as it is, Tammy.
Well, unfortunately, our legislature, my particular legislator, is big in ALEC, and all of the bills that he pushes comes right from ALEC. So I did send him a note and say, hey, maybe you should be a lobbyist, because who represents we the people? Sounds like, if you do want to represent business or people, pick.
ALEC is the product of the Koch network, and it's nothing. It's one lobbyist and legislators sit together and write these, put these bills together and then introduce them into state legislatures. Tammy, thank you very much for the call, and thanks for updating us on what's going on in Iowa. It sounds like a really grim situation. But it's happening in Republican-controlled states all across the country, and there's about twice as many Republican-controlled legislatures and governorships as there are Democratic.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teef, Smarter Pet Dental Help. More info at teefhealth.com, code Tom. Hello Fresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.
Today, the Free Speech TV Fund Drive, the, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the Spring Has Sprung Fund Drive, membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, you know, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, you know, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, you know, like when I finally get irritated enough at the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? You know, this show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So there are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift, your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the 2 books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these 2 books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, you know, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, you know, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the 2 books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or, you know, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off-the-record conversations that, you know, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded. And, you know, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You'll get a Zoom link and you know, you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances and, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed. And the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour. And, that's what we'll be doing. Assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know, we'll figure this out exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. On the line with us, Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, professor of economics, co-founder of democracyatwork.info, author of numerous books. His most recent, The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. It's also available now as an ebook. democracyatwork.info and rdwolff with 2fs.com are his websites. You can tweet him at Prof Wolff, PROFWOLFF. And Professor Wolff, welcome back. I'm looking at a graphic that was in the, I believe it was in the New York Times daily newsletter. They have an economics newsletter. Although it might have been Axios. My printout doesn't reference it, and I don't recall. But in any case, it points out that back in April, the 30-year Treasury bond yield was 1%. It then through July and October floated up to around 1.5%. And in the last month or so, it's gone, in fact, actually from January 1st to today, it's gone from 1.7% to 2.75%. What the hell does that mean? Are government bonds, does this mean that people should be buying 30-year treasuries because you get a 2% return? I know that if you buy an exchange-traded fund of long-term bonds, as the interest rates go up, the value of the fund goes down and you lose money. Can you please explain to us what the bond market is, how it works, and why the average person what the average person should know about it and why they should care?
Well, the bond market is basically a place where people borrow money. And what you get if you lend someone money is a piece of paper which we call a bond. It's a promise, in effect, to repay you at a certain date and to give you a certain interest while you wait between now when you make the loan and when you collect the repayment. It is used by governments. It is used by corporations. Those are the main players in the bond market, local, state, federal governments, foreign governments, and so on. The rising interest rate is very interesting, and the reason for it, as best most of us can tell, is the expectation of people that there may well be, and that's all it is an expectation, that there may well be an increase in the price level going forward. I mean, we have been pumping up the money supply in this country for many years, unprecedented in the history of the United States, number one. Number two, even though we've had a repressed economy for the last year, the COVID situation, the collapse of our economic system again, the third time in this new century, we've had a period of repressed activity because of those things. That is now maybe, and again I stress maybe, coming to an end if the downturn in cases continues, if the new variants aren't dangerous as expected, if the vaccinations proceed, you could then have an interesting combination of all of that accumulated money and a kind of crash, post-COVID euphoria in which an awful lot of people grab portions of that money, run into the market to buy everything from land and buildings to appliances, housing fixtures, and all the rest. And what you see in the bond market is the desire people have to prepare for that kind of an eventuality. And what that means is if they're going to give up money for a year or two or three, they want more interest paid to them than they demanded before because the risk of an inflationary upswing in prices exists. And the Fed Chairman Powell's comments over the last couple of days in which he says he doesn't care if that happens, the Federal Reserve is not going to step in to stop it, well, that makes people nervous in the bond market, and they demand higher interest rates. And I think that's what we're seeing. No one knows whether that will continue. No one knows, even if it does, how long it will continue. But here is something we do know. When interest rates go up, and if the Central Monetary Authority, in this case the Federal Reserve, does not step in to prevent that, which it could, but it says it isn't going to, then we're going to see interest rates across the board rise. And that means larger car payments if you're buying a car on time, which most Americans do, rising mortgage rates, which may have a bit of a depressive effect on the housing market. This is a serious possibility in a way that it didn't seem to be up until recently.
So when interest rates go up, the Republicans are already doomsaying this. They're saying, this increase in the 30-year yield in the federal Treasury market or bond market suggests that inflation is coming. If inflation comes, we're going to have to pay more on the national debt, which is these bonds, right? And if we have to pay more on the national debt, then we can't afford to be borrowing money to stimulate the economy, and so we should cancel, Biden's $1.9 trillion program and quack, quack, quack. It seems to me like the easy remedy to that is, okay, fine, let's not borrow any more money. Let's just raise taxes on rich people. What am I missing here?
You're not missing anything. What you're doing is you're adding. I'm like you on this, Tom. Really, it blows my mind as an economist. It's always the case that if you're looking at the problem of raising the money to pay for what the government does, you have two options. One is to tax, and the other one is to borrow. If you don't want to borrow for good reasons, then you tax. And if you tax, you ask the question, whom should we tax? And there the answer is very clear. You choose between the business community and individuals, corporate tax versus personal tax, and then you organize whichever one you choose to be a tax that's flat or a tax that's progressive. So the answer is we should be having these conversations that include who should pay a tax if we don't want to go into debt. What the Republicans do is what the rich people in this country and the corporations want them to do. Have this conversation as if taxing them was somehow off the table, somehow not part of the conversation. And they're so successful that major parts of mainstream media seem to write their articles or give their announcements as if the choice is between borrowing more or less or cutting the spending. That's never been the choice. That is a misrepresentation because they've left out what they fear, which is a discussion of taxes, which would, of course, lead a rational person to say the people who should pay the most are those who have the most and those who have gained the most in the last 30 years. And that's corporate America and the top 1% of our people. That's why they don't want that in the conversation, but you're not missing it. You're getting it exactly right.
Yeah. So we have got about 45 seconds here. What impact for people who are investing for the future would inflation have? Does that hurt stock markets? It seems like it depresses housing prices, but what other impacts does it have?
It has very, very mixed effect. The immediate effect And it's hard to predict in the future. And when people talk confidently about where it's going to go, talk to somebody else, because that's stargazing. That's not serious questions. Here's some of the effects, very quick. Number one, it hurts the stock market, which is why the stock market's been going down the last few days, because if you can make 2, 3, 4% in the bond market without taking risks in an economy that is very fragile, then you see stocks give way as people move into higher interest bonds. And that's one of the phenomena you have to take account of now. The Republicans don't want to talk about that, but that's a serious issue.
Got it. Professor Richard Wolff, democracywork.info, rdwolff.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great talk. I always learn something from Professor Wolff. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Back with more of the news of the day. Actually, I've got amazing geeky science for you and your calls right after this. 15 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Marie in Pipe Creek, Texas. Hey, Marie, thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I wanted to make a point about the $15 minimum wage. And my point is, in 1974, I started out as an operating room technician, which means I assisted in surgeries. I had to know about surgical instruments and procedures. And real important, we do surgical sponge counts to make sure we don't leave anything behind in the body that shouldn't be left there. And so
right.
I just wanted to make the point that in 1974, to do this job, they were paying me $2.94 an hour. The big, yeah. And I just wanted people to think about, like, if you have a loved one or a friend or somebody that you know that's going to have surgery, wouldn't you want that person to maybe be paid a little bit more? I mean, I know we're all supposed to have big hearts and be compassionate and responsible and do good jobs, but give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that back in the early 70s, anyway, the minimum wage was around $2.30 an hour, as I recall. Maybe,
oh my God!
You know,
so I was
I'd have to go back and look.
Getting more.
I think so. Yeah,
you know,
I'm pretty sure it was $2.30 or $2.35 in 70. But go ahead.
And you know, other people who do important jobs, like home health aides or nursing assistants or people like that, who are now getting, you know, paid the bare minimum. I mean, those are very important jobs. Even housekeeping. I mean, especially now that we have COVID and stuff. That they, you know, have to be really on top of cleaning and sanitizing. But people ought to think about that. I think, you know, it's real important for us to raise the minimum wage. And that was just one point, you know, that I would think to bring up. And,
we should not have people who are working full-time. Bernie makes this point over and over again, and he says it so eloquently. He said, in the richest country in the world, people who are working full-time should not be in poverty. And the minimum wage right now is a poverty wage. And if the minimum wage goes to $15 an hour, if it was to do it tomorrow, now this is a 5-year phase-in, but if it was to do it tomorrow, it would take 27 million people out of poverty. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I know. And I called several Republican senators yesterday just to make that point. And I just wanted to urge everybody to start calling their representatives and senators, because they I don't know if they think about stuff like this, but to me that would be something important.
Yeah, I agree. Maria, you're in Texas. How are people there thinking of Ted Cruz now?
Oh, my God. Well, he was one of the senators I didn't call because he is just really useless as far as senators go. And I had a hellish week, you know, no power, no water, It's getting better, but no, he's just non-point.
I'm glad it's getting better, Marie. Marie, thank you so much for the call, and thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. We'll be right back. We're hitting 20 minutes past the hour. I'm going to tell you all about lucid dreaming after this. Stick around. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, yeah, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So, for our geeky science segment today, you'll recall the movie, Leo DiCaprio's movie Inception, where he was getting inside people's heads while they were dreaming and getting information. We're a little closer to that. Back in the, I think it must have been the 1970s, maybe the 1980s, there was this kind of craze about lucid dreaming. There was a fellow, Stephen was his first name, I forget his last name, but he wrote a book about lucid dreaming, which I read, and it was a how-to book on how to do lucid dreaming, which was amazing. I mean, I really got into it, and for the better part of a year or so, I was doing this. And what you do, first of all, what lucid dreaming is where you're having a dream, and in the middle of the dream, you realize, I'm dreaming. And then you decide, well, okay, if I'm dreaming, I can take control of this dream. So I think I'll jump into the air and fly like Superman. Or I think I'll be sitting on the beach in Thailand. Or, if you fill in the blanks, right? You do whatever you'd like, because it's your dream, right? And so the way that you get to lucid dreaming, that is having the ability to be conscious of the fact that you're dreaming when you're dreaming, the way you do that, and it works, I did this. The reason I stopped doing it is it's just a lot of effort. You have to put a lot of effort into this. But the way you do this is throughout the day, you remind yourself to read things twice. Like I am looking at a box that my camera is sitting on right now. It's just holding it, and it's for an old Stanley drill, and it says Stanley recharge at 15 amp. Okay, so I read that, I notice that, and then I look away, and then I go back and I read it again. Stanley recharge at 15 amp. Now, if you get in the habit of doing that, you have to do it 10, 15 times a day throughout the day. Everything you look at that has words on it, look away and then look back at it. So it becomes a habit. It becomes second nature. It becomes something you just normally do. That habit will translate into your dream. So you'll be having a dream and you're looking at a newspaper in your dream, or you're looking at a sign on a store, and then you look away, and when you look back, it'll be different in your dream. In other words, in my dream, I might look at it, that box, and it says Stanley recharge at 15 amp. The first time I look away, I look back, and now it might say, Ralph's Clubhouse. Literally, in your dreams, those things will change. And that's how you know that you're dreaming and not awake. So while you're awake, you get in this habit of looking at things, looking away, looking back, and kind of saying to yourself, oh, I must be awake because it hasn't changed. And that way, when you're in your dream, it changes. Well, this is just this amazing study that they did where these researchers, this is an independent team. Actually, it was 4 different teams that collaborated on this in France, Germany, the Netherlands, and the United States. They recruited volunteers who had lucid dreams. Typically, about half of us have had at least once the experience of being awake during a dream. In other words, realizing we're dreaming when we're dreaming. And they asked them simple yes or no questions like, what is 8 minus 6? Math question. And they asked them to signal to the people around them because they were asleep. Right? In other words, the people are dreaming, and so somebody sitting next to them as the person is dreaming says, what is 8 minus 6? What is 8 minus 6? What is 8 minus 6? The answer, of course, is 2. And so they would say, blink your eyes twice, or blink your eyes for the answer, or frown or smile. These are all things that you can control while you're dreaming. And what they found was that out of these 185 questions that they asked of lucid dreamers, they responded correctly almost 20% of the time. And they only gave the wrong answer 3% of the time. The rest of the time, they couldn't tell if the person was really responding or not. One dreamer reported that the math problem was coming out of their car radio in their dream. They were driving down the street and they heard a voice coming out of their car radio, again, in their dream, saying, what is 8 minus 6? Another said that he was at a party when he heard the researcher interrupting his dream, like a narrator in a movie, a voice out of the sky, saying, do you speak Spanish? Blink once for yes, blink twice for no. Now, where this gets really fascinating, in addition to it being a lot of fun, and I can tell you this from my personal experience, when I was doing lucid dreaming back in the late 70s or in the 80s, when I was really into this, my favorite thing to do when I was lucid dream was to fly. I'm a pilot. I love to fly. And so in my dreams, I would just do Superman. I'd just jump in the air and fly around and see things, and, you know, it was just great. But they are now, these researchers, the reason that they're doing this research, in addition to just like fascinating curiosity stuff, is they believe that this, and by the way, this is from sciencemag.org, they believe that they can use lucid dreams to deal with trauma, anxiety, and depression. They said, and I quote, sleeping conversations might also help the dreamer solve problems, learn new skills, or even come up with creative ideas. And one of the researchers, a fellow by the name of Dr. Baird, says the dream is a highly associative state that may have advantages when it comes to creativity. One of the researchers, Michelle Carr at the University of Rochester, cognitive neuroscience, said she's very excited about this. She said, when you're in a dream, your reporting abilities are quite limited. So you've got to figure out how to get this out. But this is a world entirely fabricated of memories stored in our brain. Right? And being able to connect that world to the outside world, this is potentially as a therapeutic modality, as a way of helping people resolve issues, helping people resolve trauma, helping people resolve past problems. It may well be absolutely brilliant. Because I mean, this is something that we normally do, right? Nightmares, bad dreams are typically an attempt by our mind, or this is widely believed. This is not, you know, definitely true, but it's widely believed that these are attempts to resolve these issues, to improve our own mental health, that's part of dreaming. And if we can do it lucidly, and we can do it intentionally, and we can do it with a little help from a therapist, this could be a huge, fascinating breakthrough. So, our geeky science for the day. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
The author of that book was Stephen LaBerge, or LaBerge, however you say it. But Lucid Dreaming is the book, back in the whenever it was. We'll be right back. Hey, it's the first day of the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. The, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the Spring Has Sprung Fund Drive, membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, you know, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, you know, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, you know, like when I finally get irritated enough at the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? You know, this show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So There are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift. Your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice. The new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the 2 books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these 2 books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, you know, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, you know, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the 2 books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or, you know, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off-the-record conversations that, you know, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded. And, you know, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You'll get a Zoom link and you know, you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, you know, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances, and, you know, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed, and the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch, and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour. And, you know, that's what we'll be doing, assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know, we'll figure this out, exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call now. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. We have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com about conspiracy theories. Abby Richards came up with a kind of a hierarchy of conspiracies, maybe a variation on the old Maslow hierarchy. And it goes from actual conspiracies to maybe this was a conspiracy, maybe not, we have questions, to this is kind of crazy stuff, but who knows, flying saucers, for example, to actual science denial, conspiracy theories that actually serve to promote the interests of a particular industry or wealthy individuals, to the totally crazy stuff, the flat earth, the reptilian overlords, and all that kind of thing, conspiracy theories that can do tremendous damage. And, one of those being one of the conspiracy theories that, brought two Republicans into Congress this year. So anyhow, I lay the whole thing out with a new video for our supporters over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And let's pick up some of your phone calls here. And Larry in Los Angeles. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind today?
The media should stop saying that the Republicans believe that the election was stolen from Donald Trump, or that they believe that Trump actually won. In reality, this situation is that the Republican horde are actually participating in the big lie. They don't really believe that Trump won. They are just propagating the big lie, and they're part of it. Basically, what they're doing is they're gaslighting. The entire Republican horde is gaslighting America on this subject. Republicans are fully capable of identifying liars, just as Democrats are. And in fact, every time you find a liberal who has told an untruth, which is the definition of a lie, Republicans jump on that really quick. They don't all of a sudden just lose that ability just because a Republican is lying. They know how to identify lies just like we do. But they're trying to gaslight us as a baby does when a baby cries when nothing's wrong. They just want attention, and they want you to service their needs. And this is what the Republicans are doing. It's really one of the basic things that we learn in life as we come to this world. You cry, everybody comes running, and then they service you. And this is what Republicans are doing to America. The difference between Democrats and Republicans is racism. They believe the end justifies the means, and so they're willing to do voter fraud, suppression, election cheating, lying, insurrection, murder, or whatever is necessary to gain power. And this is what they're doing to us.
I completely agree, Larry. Donald Trump let 500,000 Americans die because he thought that if he could postpone the consequence of the virus, or if he could minimize it, it would help him get reelected. Pure and simple. I completely agree. Very well said. Tim in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Well, first of all, you jogged my memory about something. I'm also a proud graduate of the Jose Silva mind control method back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I did that, too, in the 70s.
Did you really? Isn't it also interesting how subliminal messaging coincided with the birth of Fox News? Think about that for a minute. That'll drive you nuts.
Well, subliminal messaging, that was a big thing in the late 50s. I mean, that...
But in the media, actually directly into the media. And also, we didn't have pharmaceutical ads back then. We didn't have all these lawyer ads back then. Well, anyway, that's not what I called them. My biggest concern, I just got back from Lowe's. 2 pieces of 4x8 OSB sheathing cost me almost $100. I think I called about 7-8 months ago back when I worked at Lowe's. Here's what I'm worried about. The housing crisis is going to happen overnight. The Democrats are going to be blamed hugely for it. And that's because in pure autocratic fashion, all these corporations, just like what happened after we invaded Iraq, when all the prices went up on everything, I said prices were never going to come down, and they didn't. From McDonald's on over to Hobby Lobby, and all these contributors to a lot of the Republican and conservative election campaigns, all these corporations are going to make sure by keeping prices high. I looked at the inventory. I know people in Canada, they say that our stock supplies have never gone down. There's only 3 things that can, and we're not talking small increases. The same price that I was paying for a 2x4 by 8 piece of lumber. And remember, housing is bid on between 6 and 18 months in advance. So all these prices that have gone up are affecting contracts and bid sheets that were done between 6 and 18 months ago. So people, small private owners that are building their house and hiring subcontractors and all that, they can't afford the lumber that the prices are at, because you got to do it in stages. Anyway, the lumber has never gone down from Canada's standpoint. There's only two things that are affecting it. One is the corporations that are keeping prices high, and two, the tariffs that Trump put into effect on Canadian lumber. And by the way, another gift from Ronald Reagan, from our tax and spend Republicans, conservatives, was, if you'll remember back in the 70s, tipped employees never had to pay taxes on their tips. We never paid taxes on our tips. I worked in restaurants for 20 years. And it wasn't until Ronald Reagan put whatever law into effect, I think all that came about. I don't remember, but we never had to report tips. So
yeah, that was attached to one of his tax bills. You're right. I remember that. I worked at Bob's Big Boy when I was 17 years old when I was going to college, and we would split up the tips at the end of the day in cash, and nobody even kept track of it. We'd just all sit there and split up the tips, and and some restaurants, of course, they didn't split up the tips. You just took what you had, But
why should tipped employees pay taxes on tips? They're already taxed. That's triple taxation, really. That money should never have been taxed.
You can make that argument for any kind of wage, actually. Money is taxed, repeatedly as it moves through the system. But yeah, good point. So, but I'd like to get back just real quickly to your point that the price of raw materials is going up. The Aden sisters published this newsletter, this investment newsletter. We've had them on the program before to talk about investment stuff. And a week or two ago in their newsletter, they said, look out, commodity prices are going to go up. Lumber is a commodity price. This could be, I mean, if these guys, if the situation, when the COVID goes away, there's going to be a lot of demand for everything. And if that produces a boom and that boom produces inflation, and the Fed responds to that inflation by increasing interest rates, we could be back. We could see the Biden administration having the same problem the Carter administration had.
That's exactly what they are doing. Exactly what they are doing. And you can compare it, because all of the grills and stuff that we get from China, they haven't gone up at all. It's only the big items, the big commodity items, that mostly affects American industry.
Yeah. Amazing. Fascinating stuff. Tim, thank you. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Brad in Fife Lake, Michigan. Hey, Brad, what's up?
Yeah, you were talking about that dream state.
Lucid dreaming.
And, yeah, lucid dreaming. I'm a Vietnam Desert Storm vet, and I have frequent night terrors, and I've had a couple of incidents where I didn't know anything about lucid dreaming, but I took over the dream and was able to control it.
That is lucid dreaming. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was, but I liked that.
Yeah, I liked it too. It's just a lot of effort, constantly throughout the day, reminding myself to look back whenever I see anything that has words on it. I'm looking at a book over here, Battle Cry for Freedom. Look away, look back, Battle Cry for Freedom. Yes, it's the same. That means I'm awake right now. I'm not dreaming. And but yeah, it's a cool thing. Brad, thank you for sharing your story with us. Appreciate it. Alonzo in Gardena, California. Hey, Alonzo, what's up?
Tom, can you give an explanation as to why several of these so-called red states are located in some of the most economically depressed areas in the country? Where is the progressive opposition to these senators like Ted Cruz and McConnell? Where's that opposition who should be in favor of the minimum wage increases because of the fact that these individuals, particularly the working class, are suffering in these red states?
I am of the opinion, Alonzo, and I may be wrong on this. I know that there's a lot of Democratic Party consultants who tell me that I'm wrong about this. But I'm of the opinion that in red states, the Democrats should be running Bernie-type progressive candidates. Bernie carried a lot of red states in the Democratic primaries. And instead of running people who are just kind of Republican light, but they have a D after their name. And I think that the red states are ripe for change. Look at Florida. Florida had a $15 minimum wage on their ballot in the last election, in the November 2020 election, and it got 2/3. It won by 2/3 in a so-called red state that Donald Trump won easily. So, if a Democrat was running for the Senate or running for governor or running for, state House or Senate or whatever it may be in that state, and they were running on a Bernie-crat kind of platform, I think they would do well. Was that your point, Alonzo?
Yeah, sure. Because I said, as I mentioned, we hear about Tom Cotton and some of these other senators from the red states, but we don't hear it from the opposition, people who should be in favor of these more progressive, particularly when it comes to increasing the minimum wage. We don't hear any more opposition for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. And also they don't get much media attention, right? And surprise, surprise, we got, multimillionaire media stars. We'll be right back. It's 45 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's your media support group for We the People. And welcome back. Patricia in Austin, Texas. Hey, Patricia, what's on your mind today?
All right. There was a gentleman that called earlier who was talking about paying his employees $30 an hour and so forth. And I just, feel like people like that, I feel like they're just not getting enough recognition. Are you familiar with, I don't know if they still have this, but they used to have like on labels on like products and services, like good housekeeping label, things like that. And I always thought that it would be a good idea to have like a label or and with the website where you can, it's like saying, yes, this is a good product to buy, they take care of their employees and so forth. And I just wanted to maybe you have more information on that or you have some ideas on how we can do this. And I will take my answer off the phone.
Okay. Well, Patricia, I think you're onto something. I was eating a chocolate bar last night, and it said right on the bar, made with fair trade cocoa, no child labor or exploitation. I forget what the exact phrase was, but and there's now a group that certifies cocoa as being fair trade. Increasingly, we're seeing all these kinds of certifications, environmentally friendly, or there should be one for made by people who are earning a living wage, or made by people who have health care as a job benefit. Although we all want to see health care become just a universal thing, right? Not just a job benefit. But I think you're onto something. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you very much for the call, Martin in Seattle. Hey, Martin, what's up?
Yeah, hi, Tom. I wanted to speak to what Professor Wolff said and a few other of the callers. Why is the choice between borrowing money and raising taxes? Why can't the government just have print its own money without having to borrow? And also,
well, now you're getting into modern monetary theory, and that would be, we should get Stephanie Kelton back on the program. It's been quite a while. But the prevailing, the conventional wisdom is that when the government prints money, it reduces the value of the currency. In other words, it causes inflation. And I guarantee you that, that
can't be true.
Okay, go ahead, Martin.
I mean, how can it be true? It's just the same as when more money is created from the Fed.
If you have an economy that let's take a little micro economy, let's say your community, and you've got an economy that is generating $1 million a year in economic activity, and you're producing the currency for that economy, and so you produce $1 million $1 bills, and so the currency reflects the economy. If you then add 500,000 bills to that, the value of each bill is going to go down by half. Or actually, it would go down by less than half, but, you know. Yeah,
1/3,
by a
but
third.
how is that different than?
But you get the point.
How is that different from banks creating money? That's no different.
Well, yeah, except that the ability of banks to create money is somewhat regulated. The point that I was going to make is that you're going to have people probably on the left saying if we have inflation, that the reason that we have inflation is because the Fed created $7 trillion to bail out giant corporations and buy bonds and buy into the stock market during the last year of the Trump administration. And that may be the case. I don't know. On the Science Revolution this week, Dr. Michael Mann drops by about our fossil fuel addiction and how it's leading to bombs, cyclones, and famines. If the recent wild weather is any forecast of what's to come, we need to get our carbon emissions under control quickly. As the jet stream to our north and the Gulf Stream to our east continue to wobble and weaken, weather patterns that enable us to predictably grow food and maintain a habitable lifestyle are collapsing. This severe winter weather is a warning and will become civilization threatening and eventually could even bring down the whole human species. The crisis is now. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. And welcome back. Eddie in Kansas. Excuse me. Hey, Eddie, what's on your mind today?
Tom, do you know why the Republicans are trying to stop the Medicare for all, while they're trying to stop the second stimulus? You know, my car broke down. The mechanic says, I got to ship it off to a specialist. He don't know whether it's going to be $600 or $2,600. I go down to the bank, and I'm in the heart of Republican country where I'm probably the only progressive. Well, it seems that way. And you know what the problem is that the Republican businessmen, the Republican senators, they've never been on the bottom, and there is not 1 ounce of compassion in the Republican Party.
I'm with you. The conservative philosophy is an attempt to put a patina of logic and morality on greed. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. And even, I mean, the legislation right now, this $1.9 trillion stimulus, has 60% support among Republicans. It's got over 80% support among Democrats. Overall, it's around 70% among the American public. 60% among Republicans, and yet not one single Republican member of the House or Senate has come out in favor of it. Not one. And it's because the billionaires who fund their elections don't want any more government spending because they know inevitably that's going to mean that their taxes are going to go up. And they do not want to pay taxes. And it's just, like I said,
these
it's just
people have never been on the bottom. They've never been on the bottom in need.
Yeah, I am absolutely with you. Eddie, thank you for the call. Jake in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jake, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Calling in today to bring up a little something that you've probably already seen, but over on YouTube, there is a set of videos entitled The Alt-Right Playbook. And it's well worth watching because in like the second or third in line there, the guy comes out and makes the point that these brainwashed right-wingers only say things, they reply to people that sort of understand the truth in terms that are short, quippy, and false.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways to fight back against that nonsense is to come up with our own set of short, quippy, and true beliefs. What do you think about that particular proposal?
I like it. I like it, Jake. And I think that, you know, by focusing on things like Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and free college, for example, and just saying, here's our agenda, it's got 3 things, and letting the Republicans just foam at the mouth about, you know, all their so-called social issues. You know, now you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene going off on trans people. You've got, you know, the anti-abortion freaks and the gun nuts and everybody else, but the Democrats by and large are just ignoring all of that and saying, no, we're in charge. This is what we're going to do. And it's short, it's tight, it's pithy. I am with you, Jake. That's great. And I'll have to check out the alt-right playbook over on YouTube. Thanks for the tip on that. Stuart in Seacliff, New York. Hey, Stuart, what's up?
Hey, Tom, 2 quick points. One thing, both on minimum wage. One thing I saw popped up on my news, John Thune was, I guess he was debating in committee about the stimulus bill, and he was saying, when I was a kid, I was making $6 an hour. And then the news
in the 70s
pointed out that it was the equivalent of, which that was more than minimum wage. They figured it was in 1971 when he made that. So it was approximately $24 an hour, adjusted for inflation. So that's one.
Yeah, there's somebody on Twitter saying that would be $40 an hour, but it depends on the year that you're looking at. But yeah.
And my other point is, those of us that support raising the minimum wage, we like to point out that, it kept pace with inflation and productivity until the 60s. And the other thing and then it started falling behind. Now, the other thing that happened in the 60s was the passage of the Civil Rights Act. So I'm saying that there is a tie, there's a racial component to minimum wage not keeping pace. Would you agree with that?
Yes. One of the reasons historically that Southern conservatives opposed increasing the minimum wage was because they felt that would, increasing the minimum wage would give some benefit to black people. I just finished writing, in fact, it just went off to the typesetter yesterday, The Hidden History of American Healthcare, which will be out in 6 months or so. And I can tell you, unambiguously, the only reason we don't have a national healthcare system in the United States is because mostly Southern white racist politicians didn't want black people to have free health care. Example after example after example, going all the way back to the 1890s in the United States, where national health care programs were proposed. It's always that. I'm with you. Thanks, Stuart. David in Halfway, Missouri. David, we only have 45 seconds. You got a quick point you want to make?
Yeah, I used to, when I was younger, I used to dream of flying all the time. I was wondering, when you woke up, did you feel exhilarated, like you slept really well and full of energy?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. I still occasionally do. I mean, I will, although I haven't, it's been literally 30 years since I trained myself to look at signs.
It's been a long time for me, but I also had a helicopter. I could go fly it. Yeah.
In your dream?
I didn't see it, but I was sitting up like one of those little gyrocopters. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Not easy to control sometimes, and it was really wild, but sometimes I could control it really well.
That's interesting. Yeah, I always did it like I was Superman. And then after I started scuba diving,
I used to, I would follow the highways and go up to Kansas City and back, yeah.
There you go. There you go. Good dreams. David, thank you. Thanks for the call. Yeah, lucid dreaming is a thing. It's a fascinating thing. We'll be back. We're going to do a deep dive into Black history, and I think you're going to find this absolutely fascinating. Please stick around. It's going to be really interesting. This brilliant new book, 400 Souls, edited by Kendi and Blain. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teeth, Smarter Pet Dental Health. More info at teethhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Bowl and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bowlandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.
We say fight back!
drive, the, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the spring, Spring Has Sprung Fund drive, membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, you know, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, you know, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, you know, like when I finally get irritated enough at the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? You know, this show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So there are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift. Your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the 2 books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these 2 books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, you know, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, you know, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the 2 books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or, you know, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off-the-record conversations that, you know, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded. And, you know, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You'll get a Zoom link and you know, you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances and, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed. And the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour. And, that's what we'll be doing. Assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know, we'll figure this out exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call now. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. We're going to do a deep dive. This is just an extraordinary book. This new book, 400 Souls, edited by Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blain. And Keisha Blain is with us. Keisha is, or Dr. Blain, Dr. Keisha Blain, is a historian and associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, professor of African American Intellectual History Society, the president of that society, the co-editor of this new book, 400 Souls, that I just told you about, also the author of Set the World on Fire, Black Nationalist Women in the Global Struggle for Freedom, and the forthcoming Until I Am Free, the book Fannie Lou Hamer's Vision of America. Keisha Blain, KeishaBlain.com is her website. Dr. Blain, welcome to the program, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to, if we can, during the course of this hour, just kind of chronologically go through the history of America as characterized in your book. If you want to give us just a quick summary of pulling the book together. First of all, you have many different authors and a lot of different content in it, and it is organized chronologically. If you wanted to give us just a summary of that, and then let's just jump into the early 1600s.
Sure. So the book begins in 1619, and as we explain in the introduction and even in several of the chapters, 1619 is a critical year because that's the year a group of captive Africans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, and the book then essentially charts the development of slavery, leading to emancipation, Jim Crow. We'll certainly talk about various periods in more depth, but then it ends in 2019, the 400-year mark, and so it is a sweeping history. We cover 400 years, but in many ways we also connect to a number of core themes that relate to American life and culture that extend to the present day.
So let's do a little deeper dive into some of these. In 1630, there was a Virginia court ruling. I've been, in fact, perhaps to put this in context, the reading that I've been doing in the last year or so has been informing me that whiteness essentially being defined not by whiteness so much as by defining limitations on people who are not white was largely the invention of the Virginians, of white people in Virginia throughout the 1600s, and by the early 1700s was fairly well established both at law and at culture. Would you agree with that? And how does the 1630 Virginia court ruling that ordered the whipping of Hugh Davis play into all that?
Yes, I certainly do agree. And in fact, I think what's clear throughout the entire text, even as we think about race in general, we're able to see, we often emphasize that race is a social construct, but I think even more so we see that it's a historical construct as well. And you're referring to just I think a brilliant essay by Ijeoma Oluo, which examines this case where a white man was essentially whipped for sleeping with a black woman. And as you point out, even in this moment, and this is very early in the first section of the book, 17th century, it's clear that there are ideas about what is accepted and what is not accepted, and what is also clear is that blackness is certainly attached, even in these early years, to certainly to the development of slavery, but even more so to scorn, to ideas of shame, and therefore when a white man in this instance ends up having relations with a black woman, he faces this public act of embarrassment, because it's meant to send a message that this is something that you simply do not do. And we see as we move throughout the history how these ideas remain salient, and of course there's a constant struggle throughout the history as it relates to even interracial unions. We know this, of course, even through the context of loving versus Virginia. So it's critical that we talk about Virginia in the 17th century, and then we end up talking about race in a later context with that court case in the 20th century.
Yeah, I mean, so much of our law, so much of our history came out of Virginia. The Virginians kind of drove the process. Jefferson, Washington, Madison drove the process of creating this country, and were the heirs of this. And we're all slaveholders, of course, and we're the heirs of this invention, as it were. I understand that it really wasn't until the mid 1600s that American, or the Virginian law in particular, is kind of setting the way for the rest of the law across the United States, shifted from being bonded, people being in bondage, basically in debt, to chattel slavery, to the invention of just, a person being outright owned, and their children are owned, and period, full stop. It's always going to be this way, world without end, amen. That some or many of the people from Africa who were brought to this country involuntarily initially were bonded for shorter periods than life, and some were bonded for life, but the idea was that their heirs wouldn't be, and that really started falling apart in the mid 1600s. Is my understanding of that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in fact, there is an essay in the book which I think helps to break this down, and the reality is that this moment, this entire period, when we talk about the colonial era, it is a period, to a large extent, I wouldn't say fluidity, but there's a lot of change taking place. In fact, even as we talk about the first group of captive Africans who arrived in 1619, there is some scholarly debate. I think certainly some people would insist that we have to identify this group as enslaved. Others would say, well, not quite, but some people will say bonded. Some people will say that it wasn't clear what their fate was, that perhaps, they were going to just work for a period of years, as you point out, through a contract, and then they would ultimately be able to do something else or potentially return. The reality is that what's clear is that by the time you do get to the mid 1600s, it is no longer a question as to whether a person who is black in the territory that will become the United States, there's no question at that point whether you would have the ability to live a life of freedom. What is clear by the 1650s is that blackness is completely tied to enslavement, and there are very limited rights and opportunities. And Nakia Parker wrote an essay which she called On Free Labor, and that looks at 1654 to 1659, that grapples with this moment of change So you're absolutely right. I think once you get to part 2 of 400 Souls, it's no longer any murkiness about classifications of Black people.
Yeah, and white people were still coming over as bonded laborers right up until the mid-1700s, arguably even into the 1800s. But right. that avenue was completely closed to anybody who was not, quote, right. white. Yeah. We'll continue the conversation. We're talking with Dr. Keisha Blain, the co-author or co-editor of this extraordinary collection, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. The book is 400 Souls. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's our Conversations with Great Minds with Dr. Keisha Blain, historian and associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh. So, Dr. Blain, I'm curious how the concept of privacy might tie into all of this. The idea of that was expressed in the Fourth Amendment that people have the right to have basically security in their person, their home, their person, and their effects, and how that altered throughout the 1600s as this concept of whiteness grew and the concept of blackness grew, or is there a story there to be told?
Well, to some extent. I mean, I think we still have to think through this through the vein and the lens of slavery, and so even as you read through the narratives in the first part of 400 Souls, it's clear that Black people, even in that moment, have very few rights and opportunities, and in the end, what does privacy even look like in a moment where people do not recognize, Black Americans? Well, they certainly don't even recognize them as humans. They don't recognize them as people, and they recognize them and they see them as property. So it's hard to even think about this notion of privacy and as some sort of right that applies to all people in this particular moment, given, I think, the reality of slavery as an institution.
What about the issue of just fundamental humanity? I know that, reading some of the, well, even in Jefferson's diaries, there was this kind of pseudoscience of the day that the races were fundamentally biologically different. Where did that come from, and how has that changed over the years?
Mm-hmm. So this certainly, we can draw connections, I think, certainly to the period that you're talking about. But I also think immediately about the Bible, and I think about it as a text that people have used in both directions. One, to try to justify claims that Black people are different and therefore not to be treated as equals. And then of course, the abolitionists were able to use the same text to make the complete opposite argument, to insist on Black people's humanity. And I think immediately about Chris LeBron. Chris LeBron wrote a piece in 400 Souls on the Germantown petition against slavery, which centers the role of the Quakers in particular. And one of the arguments that they make in that petition is the fact that Black people that we have to think about humanity, and that Black people are humans, and part of the challenge to slavery as an institution is the fact that it doesn't take into account their humanity. So these ideas are absolutely salient in the history, and I think of the Germantown petition in particular in the second section as an example of that.
Remarkable stuff. We'll be right back. We're talking with Dr. Keisha Blain, historian, associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, and the co-author of this brilliant new book, 400 Souls, or the co-editor, I guess, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. We'll be right back. You can find an absolutely fascinating library of my writings, including my daily...
I could have do this, and Maroons in particular not only ran away, but they had to come up with creative ways to even build their own communities, hiding essentially for many years, in order to not be brought back into a system of slavery. And so that essay captures that theme of resistance. And to an extent, I think creativity in the way that people hid themselves in different spaces and places. And it's a story that is central to the context of U.S. history, but also tied, I think, to a larger diasporic history.
Yeah. If I could just go back to Bacon's Rebellion real quickly. And I apologize, I haven't read Heather McGee's essay in the book. We just got the book yesterday. But my recollection of reading this years ago about Bacon's Rebellion was that was the moment in time when poor whites joined with some freed and many not free blacks and engaged in rebellion. And that was kind of the point when the fathers of Virginia, as it were, said, holy cow, we've got to figure out a way to get poor whites to align themselves with rich whites rather than with equally poor blacks. Is that kind of an accurate recollection of that, and was that a turning point?
Yes, in broad strokes. I mean, I think what is key about Heather McGee's piece, she comes at it, I think, through a different angle. She certainly is framing it, as you pointed out, I think the fear that Bacon's Rebellion incited in white slaveholders, and the way that people began to think about race. I mean, we were talking about race earlier in the earlier period, and trying to avoid a situation, essentially trying to avoid a repeat whereby, poor whites would potentially ally themselves with people of African descent and overturn the entire system. So it was a turning point. I think you can frame it as such. Not only for Virginia, but I would say even just thinking about it in a broader scope, it was a turning point on a national level, even though, again, this is still an earlier period, moment of formation long before the American Revolution.
Yeah, you could say that was the moment, or one of the moments, when race and class diverged substantially? Yes, I think so. And what Heather, I think, tried to do in that piece, which, of course, all the pieces in 400 Souls do, is get us to think not only about the historical context, but also how that connects to the present. And I can think about this even in recent months as we witness the uprisings across the nation, across the globe. There's so many moments that you can talk about as watershed moments where we see how people come together, certainly along the lines of race, but also along the lines of class, and generally how marginalized groups figure out ways to ally in order to challenge systems of oppression. Yeah, it's just an absolutely remarkable, what I have been able to read in the book has been fascinating, and I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time with it. We will continue our conversation. We'll jump into the 18th and 19th and 20th centuries here in the last half hour of our conversation with Dr. Keisha Blain, historian and associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, president of the African American Intellectual History Society, and the co-editor with Ibram Kendi of this new book, 400 Souls. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
The book is 400 Souls, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. Hey, it's the first day of the Free Speech TV Fund Drive. The, what is this, winter, spring? Spring! It's the Spring Has Sprung Fund Drive. Membership drive, whatever you want to call it. And Free Speech TV needs your help. This is, well, as always, you know, this is how we fund Free Speech TV. You and I, this is how we make this happen. And so if you call now, 877-378-8669, we can make this happen. One of the things that, you know, we've probably all noticed is that these fund drives tend to go on for weeks. That's because a lot of people figure, well, I'm not going to call today. I think I'll wait and call, you know, like when I finally get irritated enough in the second week or the third week or something like that. Why do you call now? You know, this show produces a good chunk of the revenue for Free Speech TV. And if the people watching this program can really get ahead of the curve, if we can really pour some cash into Free Speech TV here on the early end, on the front end, and particularly sign up to become sustaining members, where you're making a regular monthly contribution, maybe we can shorten this thing. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can get back to book reports. In fact, I got to start recording some new ones here. So there are a number of premiums for Free Speech TV in this pledge drive. With a $20 gift, there's the Proud Student of Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or there is the Free Speech TV Wildflower Seed Pack with a $20 gift, your choice of one or the other. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the new tote bag. It's in production. But it's going to look really nice, the new Free Speech TV tote bag, $50 gift. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the official Thom Hartmann Program mug, Free Speech TV mug, or the Free Speech TV hat with a $75 gift, your choice. With a $100 gift, we've got the 2 Free Speech TV face masks, the design that we had last time. It was very popular. We're bringing it back. With a $120 gift, you get your choice between the Grow Social Change box, which is a wildflower seed pack, a windowsill herb garden, a new tote bag, and a pair of sunglasses, Free Speech TV sunglasses. That's with a $120 gift. Or with a $120 gift, the Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt. Or with a $120 gift, my newest book, The Hidden History of American Oligarchy, or oligarchy, depending on what part of the country you're from, or what country you're from. With a $240 gift, you get your choice. You can get the book set, which is the 2 books that are kind of bookends to each other, The Hidden History of Monopolies and The Hidden History of Oligarchy. Monopolies is when economic power is concentrated in the marketplace. Oligarchy is when political power is concentrated in the political realm. They really kind of fit together, and these 2 books, one leads into the other quite well. And that's with a $240 gift. All the books, by the way, any Thom Hartmann books you get from this program during this fundraising drive will have an autographed book plate. I sign these book plates and they slap them in the front of the book. So you will have an autographed book, which, you know, if you sell it on eBay, I think it raises the value by $5 or $10. So for what it's worth, but, you know, also you get my signature. With a and also with a $240 gift, you could instead of getting the 2 books, you can join us for the virtual meet and greet. These are really fun. Every now and then afterwards, I'm kind of kicking myself saying, boy, I shouldn't have said that, or, you know, whatever. I tend to be unchained, unleashed. But I have a chance to meet great people. We have a chance to have conversations, off-the-record conversations that, you know, kind of stay right there in our group. It's not recorded. And, you know, it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing. You'll get a Zoom link and you know, you can just zoom in. With the $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Spring Box with the bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV, the Thom Hartmann bumper sticker, the Free Speech TV bumper sticker, the seeds, the herb garden, the tote bag, the hat, the sunglasses, and my oligarchy book. That's with a $360 gift. And with a $1,000 gift, you can get in line. We have not yet scheduled in-person meet and greets here in Portland because, you know, people can't fly yet and people can't take chances, and, you know, we're just starting the vaccine thing. But I'm guessing by summer we'll be doing this. And there is a line that has formed, and the folks at Free Speech TV will work out the scheduling on that with you and all that kind of thing. But that's with a $1,000 gift. Come on out here and I'll buy you lunch, and you can watch us do the show from the studio for an hour, and you know, that's what we'll be doing. Assuming that we're back in the studio. If I'm still doing the show from home, then I don't know. We'll figure this out exactly how this all works. We may just get together for lunch or get together in the studio where Sean is working, but we'll see. But anyhow, that's with a $1,000 gift. So call now, 877-378-8669, and make your contribution, and let's get this thing going to a great start. Please, call now. Thank you. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. You know, there's so much news coming out of the Trump administration, so much corruption, so many crimes. Oh, you know, now they're letting people kill endangered species. Now they're selling off, you know, the Arctic National Wildlife Preserve, refuge rather, to big oil companies. Oh, now they're they're authorizing pesticides that we know cause birth defects and damage to children. It's just, you know, step after step after step, that it's so easy to forget that back in July of 2020, it was reported that Jared Kushner and Mike Pence's nephew, John Pence, created a couple of LLCs, American-Made Media Consultants Corporation, that took $617 million of Trump campaign cash, and nobody knows where it went. I'm telling you, these guys are professional grifters. We need to keep an eye on it. There's a whole rant about it over at thomhartmann.com for supporters of our program. And welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Keisha Blain, historian, associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, president of the African American Intellectual History Society, co-editor with Ibram Kendi of the new book 400 Souls. And Dr. Blain, moving along into the 1800s here, could you tell us about Jamel? Is it Bowie wrote a piece about black soldiers and veterans in the Civil War and the mobilization of freed people?
Yes. So we asked Jamil Bowie to write on the Civil War. And as I said earlier, it was important for us to certainly highlight key moments in this history. And there was no way we could write a book on U.S. history without grappling with the Civil War. What's important about this particular essay is the point of view that it takes. And here what it does is that it centers black soldiers in particular, their service in the war. And part of why we wanted Jamil Bowie to write this piece was to send a message about the way that black people essentially viewed the war as a window of opportunity to seize their freedom. So it wasn't about waiting for someone to set them free. We certainly can talk about key developments in the war period that aided black people's efforts, and we know this, you know, through, for example, the Emancipation Proclamation, which made it possible for black military service to begin with. But this piece is about seeing the ways that black people asserted themselves and saw this moment as a chance to essentially make sure that their lives would be improved and that they would not have to return ever to a system of slavery.
And this was, you know, across the country. Let's talk for a moment about the Emancipation Proclamation. I think that it's widely misunderstood. I mean, 50, 60 years ago when I was in elementary school, we learned that Lincoln freed the slaves. It wasn't anything close to that simple.
Exactly. You know, I tell my students all the time, this is certainly an important development in the history. So I'm not suggesting that it's not an important development, but I think perhaps the most important contribution of the Emancipation Proclamation is the fact that it made it possible for Black people to serve in the U.S. military. It certainly did send a message overall about the centrality of slavery when it came to the Civil War, because, of course, the rhetoric then and even now, to a large extent, there are still people who will frame it as simply a war for states' rights, and some people resist the notion that slavery had anything to do with it. But as we know, it's all deeply connected and intertwined. And so the Emancipation Proclamation ultimately was limited because it was a proclamation that one certainly did not apply to those who were enslaved who lived in border states. That's significant. But also it ultimately, covered those who lived in rebel territory. So it could not, be fully enforced. But what is key is that it opened up an opportunity for Black people to fight in the military. And Jamil Bowie centers those voices and experiences. And I think that part of the history was important to tell in 400 Souls.
Yeah, and it's done brilliantly. To this larger point, I just kind of a personal question. I grew up in the North and lived in the North until I was in my 30s, and then we moved to Atlanta. We lived in that area for about 13 years. And I remember when my son came home from school, he must have been 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10 years old, and I said, "What'd you learn in school today?" And he said, "Oh, we're studying the War of Northern Aggression," and which just blew my mind. And I'm wondering, it's been that was in the 1980s. That was in the early 1980s. Mm-hmm. Is it still that bad? I mean, is the teaching of American history that calcified, that rigidified by 400 years of white supremacy and control over history?
Well, I think it absolutely depends on where you live, where you attend school. One of the things that's clear is that, for example, Texas comes to mind as a state where there is still to this very day a battle over how educators can talk about the Civil War or even slavery in general. There are still textbooks that do not fully explain the horrors of slavery. Tries to talk about it in a way that's quote unquote fair and balanced. Well, there's no balanced assessment of slavery. It was a terrible institution and it was wrong. And there's still battles taking place. I think depending on various states are debating these concerns. So there's still progress. I would hope it's not as bad as the example you give in the 1980s, but this does not mean that we're at a place where students are fully grasping this history. And I think to this very day, you can meet people who will resist the notion that, for example, that the Civil War has anything to do with slavery because of the way that they were taught in high school and even in some colleges too.
Yeah, and I should add, it wasn't the Atlanta public school system. We were living in Cobb County, Georgia. Our U.S. representative was Newt Gingrich, and this was in Marietta, Georgia, suburban Atlanta at the time. Tell me about the Great Migration. Isabel Wilkerson writing about this in your book 400 Souls. We're talking with Dr. Keisha Blain.
Yeah, so of course, I think it's impossible to even study the Great Migration without engaging the work of Isabel Wilkerson. So she was the first person that we thought of to write this piece. And what we wanted to do in a similar fashion, I think it's clear the theme of Black agency runs through the text. And this chapter, in a similar way, helps people see how Black people came together in mass to resist a system of, in this particular case, a system of Jim Crow segregation and violence and terror, and collectively resist by moving, by exploring opportunities outside of the South and bringing their families, working together through networks and institutions to try to make a better life for themselves. So in a similar way, if you look at the piece on the Civil War and you look at the piece of the Great Migration, what you see is Black autonomy, decisions being made at an individual level, but even a collective vision that is connected to a vision of seeking rights and liberation at a moment where there's so much violence and so much resistance and white backlash, which we certainly see throughout the history.
What is the lingering echo of that? Is it it occasionally gets referenced in the context of large black populations in Detroit or in Philadelphia, things like that. Is that the principal echo, or are there others?
Well, I think it's more so just a constant struggle among black communities, and I think even the constant struggle among black people to try to figure out how to improve their social conditions. And so the piece by Isabel Wilkerson is looking at the Great Migration and focuses specifically on a movement primarily from south to north and also to the west. But there are other narratives, too, that even think beyond U.S. borders. And here we think about immigrationist movements, and you have, African Americans historically, but even to this very day, who decide, we are tired of the racism, we're tired of the violence, the oppression, and we want to explore, new lands and new opportunities beyond U.S. borders to try to improve our conditions. So you see these, I think, recurring themes. Even in the current day, just even the last 4 years, there were many people who said, well, maybe the answer is simply to leave if we're not going to see things improve on U.S. soil.
Is it your sense that things are improving now, post-Trump? We just have 30 seconds to the break.
Right. A bit. I think there's a lot left to do, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, one hopes. I mean, I just don't see how anybody can call Trumpism anything other than just naked white supremacy, openly, blatantly, aggressively, proudly, as in the Proud Boys, and that kind of thing, sadly. We're talking with Dr. Keisha Blain, the historian and associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, and most consequentially, in the context of this conversation, the co-editor of this book, 400 Souls, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
The book, 400 Souls, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. Dr. Blain, I have been kind of leading this conversation by asking you about parts of the book that piqued my curiosity. I'm in the 4 minutes roughly we have until we hit another break. I'm curious, what part of the book do you feel the most excited, enthusiastic about, or would most like to share with people?
Well, there's an essay in the book written by a philosopher by the name of Catherine Sophia Bell. She's a professor at Penn State. And it's an essay on Mariah Stewart, who was an abolitionist and a feminist, ultimately from the city of Boston, living there in the 1830s. And I particularly love that piece because it helps us see the connections between past and present, and particularly, I think, just the power of Black women's leadership. One can draw the connections between Mariah Stewart and the work of, the courageous Black women who established Black Lives Matter, for example. And so that piece resonates with me. And just like I said, it captures Black women's political leadership. We've seen that, of course, even in electoral politics over the last couple of months. We've seen the critical role of Black women in Georgia and other places, making it possible for us to experience, I think, significant changes on a national level. So that's a piece that I love and hope people will find much, I think, inspiration as they read it.
Is there a particular story in there that you could tell in a little less than a minute?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll simply say that what's powerful is Mariah Stewart stood up in Boston before mixed audiences of, white and Black people to demand Black rights and political autonomy at a moment where millions of Black people were still enslaved, primarily in the U.S. South. And so that was a bold move. It was a courageous move, and it was a dangerous move. But it spoke to her courage and her passion, and I think we certainly can find inspiration in that story.
Yeah, and we so need our stories. I mean, you know, it's stories are the underpinning of culture, and we have a great collection of them here in 400 Souls, edited by Ibram Kendi and Dr. Keisha and Blain. We'll be back in just a moment. We're going to hit a break here in just a second or two. We'll be back in just a moment. I want to get up to the 20th century here. Oh, we have a full minute. I'm sorry. I'm misreading my clock, Dr. Blain. Would you like to add to that story, or is there another story you'd like to share with us in this last minute?
Well, I think another piece that I would highlight is a piece by Tara Hunter on the city of Atlanta, and this is a piece that looks at 1874 to 1879. And again, what's key in this essay is just centering Black women, the way that working class Black women came together in the city to really build community and to establish themselves in the aftermath of the Civil War. I think one can find similarly, you know, hope and inspiration in these narratives, individuals who had very little, but still had a vision, bold visions, and worked toward that within their communities. And, you know, within institutions, including churches and clubs. And so it just, I think it's the kind of story that resonates with us today.
Stories of bravery and resilience and extraordinary inspiration. We'll be right back with Dr. Keisha Blain, historian and associate professor of history at the University of Pittsburgh, president of the African American Intellectual History Society, co-editor with Ibram Kendi of the new book, 400 Souls, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. We'll be right back. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast, 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. Astonishing news out of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that has to do with the lifespan of Americans. Since World War II, the average lifespan of American men and women have continuously increased, all the way up to 78.8 years in 2019. Continuous increase. Things were getting better, more and more people were getting health care, we were making medical technology advances, there was a rather dramatic decline in smoking between the 1990s and the 2010s. All kinds of things were working together. And then came Donald Trump's response to COVID-19, causing America, with 4% of the world's population, to have 20% of the world's deaths. The result of that has been extraordinary. For the first time since World War II, American life expectancy has declined. It's all over in a new video for supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. We're speaking with Dr. Keisha N. Blain, the co-editor of A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019, titled 400 Souls. Dr. Blain, to bring us closer to the present moment, decades, Angela Davis wrote about the devastation caused by the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. Talk about that and how things have changed and not changed from basically the 80s, the so-called Reagan Revolution, to this moment. Yes, and so I think this piece, just similar to so many others, help us see how we got to this particular moment. We see the ways that Black people have been criminalized, and Black and brown people in particular have been criminalized in U.S. society. And you're asking what has changed? Well, a lot has not changed, and we see that particularly because over the last couple of months, with the uprisings and the constant struggle, the constant challenge of dealing with police violence and brutality, what happens every time there is a case that makes it to the national level, whether we're talking about George Floyd most recently, is that Black people
enter, in every space, in public spaces, even in private spaces, or criminalized, and it leads to these encounters, which, as we know, are deadly. So a lot has not changed, and I think that's part of what 400 Souls captures is, yes, we can talk about progress, but we can also talk about the continued struggles in society and anti-Black racism, state-sanctioned violence. These are challenges that remain persistent to this very day. And so the story that Davis unfolds helps set the stage, I think, in many ways for where we are today.
What was the genesis of this legislation, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act? How did this come about? I mean, this is the one that, if I'm recalling correctly, this is the bill that Joe Biden is apologizing for his role in.
Well, as a historian, I would argue that the origins actually go back pretty far, and it goes to the period of slavery. And I think I always remind my students that when you think about even the criminalization of Black people, or if you think about police violence, for example, it's not solely a 20th century story, or even a 19th century story. It's one that comes directly from the history of slavery and all of these patrols and that were established in the aftermath of the Civil War that attempted to control Black people's lives and their movements. And so when you have a movement, when you have an institution, rather, that comes out of that history, it's therefore not surprising that you would have all of these developments, even later into the 20th century, that seek to further criminalize Black people. And so, yes, one can talk about Joe Biden's role, certainly, but I want to think about it even in a broader and a longer sense throughout history, in the way that we have been creating a society that criminalizes some groups and ultimately empowers police forces to continue this, devastating string of police killings and so on. So I think one can think of it through that lens.
Yeah, particularly the police in the South, in many cases, just coming straight out of the old slave patrols. Right. Where do we go? We have about 2 minutes, I think, here. Where do we go forward? What are the things that are giving you hope as you're looking out at America's political landscape right now? I mean, this morning in the House, we had Republicans basically trying to blame the January 6th problem on Black Lives Matter. I mean, literally blaming it on Black Lives Matter. This is not going away.
Right. Unfortunately, I think I'm hopeful because, as you mentioned earlier, it certainly for me, it's meaningful that we no longer have Donald Trump in office, and certainly I'm not suggesting that within your administration that everything is perfect and all of a sudden we can celebrate and go on our merry way. We still have a ton of work to do, but it's meaningful when there are people in office who at least espouse a commitment, at least they articulate a commitment to building an inclusive democracy. The key is going beyond, words and expressions and stated commitments to actual, policies. So part of what we have to do, I think all of us as American citizens, we have to continue to push and demand that promises are kept. But it's a hopeful time to have people in office who are not trying to agitate further and encourage white supremacists.
There you go. Dr. Keisha Blain, thank you so much for dropping by today. It's been fascinating speaking with you, and it's an extraordinary book. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. The book, again, 400 Souls, edited by Keisha Blain and Ibram Kendi, and subtitle, A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. Check it out. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires you to be active. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Gabi.com. Gabi takes the pain out of shopping for insurance. More info at Gabi.com/Tom. Teef, Smarter Pet Dental Health. More info at teefhealth.com, code Tom. HelloFresh, delivering fresh ingredients and mouthwatering recipes. More info at hellofresh.com, code Tom. Boll and Branch, crafted for the common good. More information at bollandbranch.com, code Tom. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More info at expressvpn.com/Tom. And CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code Tom.